Hello guys and welcome to my channel STCR Gaming. So in today's video we are going to talk about a pretty controversial topic, which is the role that Raiden Shogun has in a team. I wanted to touch on this subject because I think that a lot of players and a lot of content creators seem to think she's mainly a support, but in my opinion she's meant to be played as a main DPS in order for her to reach her full potential. So next, I'm going to go over why exactly she's supposed to be played as a main DPS, and I'll also talk about the reasons that make people think that she's primarily a support. In order to do all that, first we need to take a closer look at Raiden's kit. So I'm going to quickly go over it and briefly explain it to you guys. Okay, so her auto attack is nothing special, so you'll basically just skip that as it has no impact on her role. Then, it's her E. What this skill basically does is it does some initial damage on activation and grants the Eye of Stormy Judgment to all active characters for 25 seconds. Now this does two things. First, every time your character deals damage, it will deal a coordinated attack dealing electro damage. The damage is pretty low, but it's AoE, and it does add up, especially when used with things like Venti's Elemental Burst. And the second thing it does is it buffs any active character's Elemental Burst damage by a set amount for as long as the Eye of Stormy Judgment is active. The way this buff works is the bigger the Elemental Burst cost is, the bigger the buff will be. One thing to consider is that Raiden's burst will be buffed too by this skill, and because her duration is 25 seconds and its cooldown is 10 seconds, you should basically always have this skill up. So as a summary, I think that we can all agree that this is mainly a supporting skill and not a damage oriented one. That being said, Raiden's whole kit is centered around her Elemental Burst, which we will discuss next. Her burst is really complex, so I'm going to try and make it as simple and easy to understand as I can. Basically, each time a character uses his Elemental Burst, Raiden will build up Resolve. The maximum Resolve she can gain is 60, and the amount of Resolve she gets depends on the energy cost of each Elemental Burst used. So, bigger energy cost burst will mean more Resolve for the Shogun. This Resolve transforms into burst damage for Raiden, so the more Resolve you have, the harder her burst will hit. Now for her burst herself, she'll perform an initial slash dealing massive damage on activation, and then she will enter the Muso Ishin state. In this state, her auto attacks will get electro infused, and they will be considered elemental burst damage. So every buff you get for your ult will count for her ultimate basically. Her normal attack level will not matter while in this state, that's why I said her normal attacks are kind of irrelevant. Also, while in this state, each time she hits an enemy, she will generate a flat amount of energy for her whole team for up to 5 times. Okay, so since her whole kit is designed around her ultimate, this is what's going to be decisive to her designed role in a team. But before I talk about the specifics of that, let me quickly talk about her Ascension talents and constellations. Her first Ascension talent basically gives her a bit more resolve when elemental skills are used, and her second gives her 2 different scalings out of energy recharge. The first means the more ER she has, the more energy she will restore for her team, and the second means she gains electro damage out of building ER. So as you can see from this, the first part targets her support capabilities and the second gives her more damage, which is a trend you will see through most of Raiden's kit. Now, for her constellations as well, basically to sum it up, the first 3 constellations drastically increase her damage. Her C2 being one of the most absurd damage boosting constellations in the game due to ignoring 60% of enemies' defense, which is huge, and her last 3 constellations basically all target her support capabilities. Her first 3 constellations pretty much double her damage and in my opinion make her on the best DPS in the game, while her last 3 are actually not too relevant, at least for right now. Now that I basically explained her kit, you can see that Raiden is a super complex character that has high damaging capabilities as well as a good supporting ones. So why do I say she's meant to be played as a main DPS and not a support? The answer resides in the way Raiden is fundamentally played. So in a practical situation, what you want to do in a Shogun team is pretty simple. First you use your Raiden's E, then you go through the rest of your characters, cycling their elemental burst and in the process making Raiden's burst stronger. Then at the end you pop Raiden's ult and you auto attack with her for the full 7 seconds until her ult expires, and in the process you will give energy to your whole team so you can do that all over again. Raiden's ult has like an 1.5 seconds activation time, then she has her infused attacks for 7 seconds, and typically either at the beginning of your burst or after it, you will reactivate your E. So in total you'll spend around 10 seconds with Raiden on the field. So you tell me right now, does that scream DPS to you or support? Well, for me it screams DPS. If I'm gonna have a unit on the field for 10 seconds each rotation, then you bet that unit has to dish out a lot of damage. The best comparison I can make so you can understand better my point is by comparing Raiden with Zhao. They are two different characters, but at their core they are super similar. Both of them require high investment, they want your best artifacts, your best weapons, and your best supports, and they will destroy all content in the game if you invest into them. Both of them require field time, they need to be on the field dishing damage in order to be effective. The main difference between them is that Raiden boosts her supports. She makes them hit stronger. She gives them energy so they can spam their bursts, so she can then decimate everything with her own burst. So think of Raiden Shogun as a less selfish Zhao, because while she too wants a lot of field time, she's also going to support the rest of your team while doing damage on field. It's because of the fact that she needs to be on the field for like 10 seconds at a time that she can't really be played with other main DPS to full effectiveness. The main exception to this rule would be Eula, because they basically complete each other perfectly. She also doesn't work particularly well in quick swap teams, like if you stay on one character for 10 seconds, there's not really a quick swap team now, is it? She excels while being played with 3 other supports or off-field damage dealers. Can she be played as a full-on support or battery? Of course she can. The game is full of possibilities. You can play DPS Barbara and make it work, but it doesn't mean it's effective. Building her as a full support means you will have a character that hits like a wet noodle on the field for like 10 seconds, and yes, she will boost the rest of your team, and yes, you will never run out of energy, but is it really worth it? If 3 characters do more damage, but one doesn't do much, for me it's just not worth it. She's also Electro, which makes her hard to fit into a team that is not centered around her, and honestly, if you just need more energy for your team, you can always use Favonia's weapons or other batteries that would be more useful for your team. Also, if you just want an amazing battery for your entire team, you can just use the Electro Traveler. It's free and way easier to build. What I want people to understand is that Raiden is a pretty needy character. She needs a lot of investment in order to shine. She needs really good artifacts, weapons, and supports, and she needs a team built specifically around her. Do all that, and she will feel amazing, and you are going to be glad you summoned for her. But I feel like a lot of people would build her subpar, with mediocre stats, low talents, a lot of ER but basically no crit stats. They will just slap her in a random team just as a battery, and she will feel really mediocre, and they will hate themselves for summoning on her banner. That being said, I did make a video testing out the peak F2P damage for Raiden. I tested her out at C0 with her burst ground, the catch at R5, and my best artifacts and supports. I suggest you go take a look and see how much potential Raiden has even for an F2P player. I will leave a link for that video in the description. Also, I'll make a super detailed Raiden guide telling you everything you need to know step by step so you can turn her into a godlike character. So this is the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.